my town, we had a game called the Squid Game. We called it that because it's played in a court shaped like a squid. The rules are simple. Children are divided into two groups, the offense and the defense. Once the game starts, the defense can run around on 2 feet within bounds, while the offense outside the lines are only allowed to hop on 1 foot.
It's your mom!
But if an attacker cuts through the waist of the squid past the defense, then they are given the freedom to use both feet.
Inspector Royale.
Inspector Royale. For whatever reason, we called that the Inspector Royale. When we were ready for the final battle, all the attackers gathered at the entrance to the squid.
Go!
In order to win, the attackers must tap the small closed-off space on the squid's head with their foot. But if someone on the defense manages to push you outside of the squid's boundaries, you die. That's right. You die.
Let's see, 1 squid, 2 squid, 3 squid. We're all here. All us squids are here. The Boob Tube Boys are ready to go. That was a very ominous opening, and we are going to be talking about some ominous things today on the Boob Tube Boys, but we'll try to lighten it up as much as we can and pretend that a giant doll isn't ordering the murder of hundreds of people at some point later on. So, Squid Game. You know, I mentioned this earlier, Ben. Is a squid a fish?
What defines a fish?
They breathe water.
Then a squid's a fish. I guess it depends on your definition of a fish. So this is like Bill
I don't
Clinton.
know a lot about squids.
I don't.
Squiddies.
I don't think they're a fish. They're not a crustacean.
They're a mammal.
Are they a cetacean? Something
Are they
along
a
those
thing
lines.
that ends in pod?
Arthropod. No, that's a bug. So I don't think they're
But
a pod.
another thing with pod on the end of it?
Racer. Well, I guess that's
No,
after
that's when pod comes. That's the first word. And that would Sebulba's not a squid.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, I don't think we know very much about
We
squids.
don't. We don't know a lot about squids, so that's gonna make this. It's gonna make this a hard show to cover.
There's a band called Squid I like.
Blooper is
Yeah.
a squid from Mario.
Blooper's a squid.
As you may have already determined from this first part, I am Spencer Hendricks. I am hosting. That was Van Lee. Brian Vaughn, do you know anything about squids that we haven't already mentioned?
Okay, so the main things that I know about squids are as follows. Squids were, I think, the first ocean animal to play in the same game as their dad, which was really, really cool. The squids also hit 45 home runs in 1993. They were born in Denora, Pennsylvania in 1969. And recently in a documentary I watched, the squids were covered extensively for the amount of home runs they hit in the 1998 season, but still trailed Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa.
A lot of home runs involved
I might
here.
be getting squids confused with Ken Griffey Jr.
Could be.
It happens.
Common
It's a
mistake.
logical thing.
Are
yeah.
squids prized for their ink like elephants are for their ivory?
I don't think. I think their ink is considered like gross. Now there is squid ink, something like a dye that you can use it with, but I don't think you really like.
Yeah, you can't write. You
eat
can't
it.
like write a novel with their ink or anything.
You guys ever have a squid as a pet?
You know what? Whatever you put your mind to, Spencer. If you're going to write your novel in squid ink,
I think that's pretty
more
awesome.
power to you.
Just
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Now that we've gotten rid of the squid discussion, which had to happen, it had to happen. Squid Game actually is.
You guys think squids are attractive?
I knew you weren't going to let it go.
I mean, look, it's late at night. You've
I've
been
never seen
lonely
one.
for a while. You see that squid and you go, damn, it's a fine looking squid
Why'd you
there.
get that ink all over me.
No, they're disgusting. They taste kind of good though.
I have never, and I would never. I've never had a squid to eat.
You almost did today because Katie and I had planned some things, but
You were gonna make me eat a squid.
We were going to play one of the games involving cookies, and the loser was going to have to eat squid.
Oof! I don't think I would have done it. I would have just completely ruined that competition.
I would have eaten it.
Good.
It's
a
dried
squid
squid.
cookie.
No, the cookie wouldn't be squid.
Ugh. This
That
would be a
sounds
lot like when you
awful.
made us eat those squid-flavored potato chips or whatever they were.
Shrimp and like white wine
Shrimp
or
and
something.
squid. It was like
interesting.
squid and exhaust fumes.
What did you guys know about this before I assigned it to you to watch? What did you know about Squid Game?
I knew it was a very popular thing.
Third most watched show in 2021.
Took the world by storm. I know that. I knew I wanted to watch it because I knew the concept of basically, I'll say it. I mean, look, most people, if you're going to watch it, you've already watched it.
I hope so.
It's
and by the way, if you're not wanting any spoilies, then don't listen to this episode. Go watch it and then come back.
We're going to go all into it.
It's the story of Squid Game is essentially boiled down to mocking capitalism in South Korea. And the concept is rich people forcing poor people to play games for their amusement, and they die. Like, it's dangerous game. So I knew that. I didn't know anything else about it. I didn't know the people in it. I knew it was Korean, but I didn't know anything else barring it. Now, I mean, that's really all you need to know going in.
That's good enough. What about you, Brian? Did you have any?
I knew like a little less than that, oddly. I knew that it was a Korean show on Netflix that was very popular.
Did you have any interest in it on your own?
Yeah, I did, because it was getting the right sort of attention, like this would make you think a little, versus like, you'll never believe what Lorena did to Bobby this week.
See, I didn't know what to expect because some of the most watched shows are very bad. So the fact that this was so successful, I wasn't sure if it was going to end up being for the right reasons. So yeah. I had no idea. I had seen the first one a couple months ago.
You said you didn't get into it. Was that right?
I did not. I watched the first episode. It was fine, but I wasn't compelled to continue it on my own. So I figured I would at some point, but it didn't speak to me in such a way that I was like, I've got to immediately binge this whole thing.
Yeah, I think for me, part of it was, I mean, if I had done 4% more research, I think I probably would have watched the season very quickly. I didn't know that it was going to be a show that, as Van alluded to, tackles a bunch of interesting themes, but also like it's a really well-crafted show.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
I tend to think like, if everybody online is raving about a thing on Netflix, I'll probably hate it, and that's unfair too, because that's not always the case. In fact,
too often.
More often than not. But if I had bothered to Google Squid Game, I would have probably watched it.
I thought that we would all be in the same position there. Like, we're not opposed. It just hasn't. We don't typically rush to that sort of thing, the thing that everyone's watching. So I thought that this would be interesting.
I got to get in on the water cooler talk.
Stranger Things is an example for me. I still haven't
seen it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's nothing great. The first season's good.
And that's a show Spencer and I watched the first season at the same time. And I think you've watched a couple.
I went like a season farther and I just got bored. So, but it's fine. The first season's perfectly entertaining.
I watched the first season. I thought it ended at a logical point. It was fine. Honestly, more of a nostalgia trip than anything else. And
they nailed the 80s.
But again, even though I liked it fine, I didn't feel the need to come back to it, which is kind of another reason why, like, that was kind of a phenomenon. Like, am I going to really care about Squid Game?
But to that point, like, the second Squid Game season 2 comes out, I'm going to watch it. Like,
are you?
I am invested in this.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
See, and part of the reason I picked it too is I was hoping that we might actually get the attention of some outside listeners because
some squids.
Squid Game is presumably still somewhat in the public eye. So if you are listening to this first and you have found Boob Tube Boys through Squid Game, I want to assure you we have much other content for you to listen to, and
all of them the most popular shows.
Many of the shows are dubious in nature.
Look no further than our extremely popular show from last week, Holmes and Yo-Yo.
Oh yeah. So we cover all kinds of things, and we are not afraid to even tackle what's hot and current, such as 90 Day Fiancé. So we'll do whatever. And assuming that most people do know what this is, I won't go too much into the premise here, but IMDb says hundreds of cash-strapped players accept a strange invitation to compete in children's games. There's a huge money prize. That's the gist of it, though.
Yeah, and I do want to talk a little bit. I don't know how much you have about this, about the development of the show.
No, the one note that I have...
It's super interesting.
And yeah, by all means do that. But the one note that I have is that the director actually chose the name because it was a game he did play as a kid. Mm-hmm. Squid Game is a real thing, like what they do at the beginning.
Netflix didn't want them to use that name.
Yeah,
really?
That's so weird that happened.
It's such a cool name.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense considering it was his childhood game. Like, he really did play what the kids are playing at the beginning there. So when I saw that, I was like, did they make that up? And I Googled, is Squid Game real? And it is.
So the thought apparently was that it's a game that some kids in Korea would be familiar with, or citizens of Korea.
I guess they played a lot in like the 80s or something, 70s and 80s.
But of course, none of us have heard of Squid Game, and Netflix execs were like, well, we've got to change this to like 6 games or so. I don't remember the exact name, but it's something like that. Really, really boring. And eventually they were convinced otherwise, that they should go back to Squid Game, which is such a better name.
It is probably a good idea to listen to the director when it comes to a title.
Yeah, because you get
they've got the idea more than the producers do.
You get the local kid game flavor in Korea, and then here, like, as an American guy, when I saw the name Squid Game, I am intrigued by that name.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of people apparently were guilty of, when it was really a big deal, of calling it Squid Games, which makes the diehards real mad. It's Squid Game.
I like Squid's Game.
That's like Cole's de Sac. I didn't know which was correct until you gave us this assignment, because I had heard so many people say it
do it incorrectly, sure. Now, what I want to say is, mentioning the director and the creation of the show, let me start off with this. I typically, when I get invested in a show like this, I immerse myself in it. So I go read about everything. I didn't even do that yet. I will, because I wanted to record these episodes first and just come at it from a clean slate.
I think that's a good idea.
But what I did read was an article written by a journalist at The Guardian who spoke with the director. And
which is, his name, by the way, is Hwang Dong-hyuk, and I might not be saying that correctly.
Yeah, we're going to butcher some names, by the way.
Disclaimer right now, we are not good at saying Korean names, and we are going to butcher
We're
much
not
of this.
good. If you've stuck with us through 50 episodes or whatever, we're not good at saying.
that covers it.
I mean, I'm going to try my best, but I'm going to mess up so many Korean names and terms. I'm going to do my best, though.
And then final note for that article from The Guardian was the journalist asked him at some point, like, you're doing okay for yourself now, because this is the biggest thing in the world or whatever. And he's like, well, Netflix didn't like give me a bonus. Of course I didn't. It was whatever the agreed upon contract is.
Yeah.
So there's irony, of course, in that.
Oh, yeah.
He makes this brilliant piece of medium of art and got whatever pennies they were agreed to pay him in the first place. Now, the show was fairly cheap to produce because it was just like one soundstage and then gore.
Yeah, it's not like they had a lot of different settings.
It looks real good, though, and a lot of the style choices are great. To your point, did you know this show costs less to make than the last Dave Chappelle stand-up special on Netflix?
What? Wow.
It's because of what they're paying awful transphobic Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, and this one isn't as transphobic as Dave Chappelle. I don't think there's a whole lot of transphobia in this one.
No, I didn't catch any.
There's a little bit of misogyny, but that's
for sure there is.
But they kind of use that for a purpose.
And Korea, South Korea is a very conservative nation.
Yeah.
So there's part of that.
Well, they
too.
have a lot of American values post the Korean War.
I wonder why.
And, and South Korea kind of is a little baby America in a lot of ways.
Excellent internet.
Yeah, way to go.
They have internet everywhere.
American internet is really not that high compared to some of the global destinations. Like, we're kind of, I think, more middling, but yeah, it's not that great.
Oh, you guys, you're my chingu. Which means we're buds. We're friends of a similar age. So, okay, I'll get into this real quick so we can preface it all.
Okay.
My girlfriend, Katie, is Korean. She is an American citizen. She was born in Korea.
Has she seen this already?
No.
Okay.
And she was skeptical because I was like, oh, I'd really like to watch it. And she's like, I don't know, some of that Korean stuff's real crappy. But
wait, hold on.
We both liked it.
This is the same Katie who has watched every episode of King of Queens. I'm just checking.
It's the same one.
Okay.
The same Katie who's watched almost every episode of
That was
Bones.
nice of you not to mention 90 Day Fiancé just now.
Oh, she has seen all of them.
I know. That's why I'm saying we didn't bring that up when you said
I try to
King
pretend
of
that
Queens.
show's not real.
Well, she gave me carte blanche to just say whatever racist things I want. So I get the free Korean pass, guys.
Okay.
I can say I can say hot I can say noodle. I can say all of the cool things that most people aren't allowed to say as a white man.
You can have them. I'm okay with you using all those, and I'll just listen. Real quickly, I will try to cover the main cast members, and then we'll go into the description of the episode. Yeah, I won't forget. Van is pointing to he made us a helpful, like a billboard sort of thing.
Yeah.
And on one of them is Reno Reigns and Alf.
They were in the show.
Different shows we've covered in the past. So, yes.
Alf was number 129.
Hey, here I am about to die.
No, he'd be fucking people over left and right.
Oh, he would be number one. He'd take the place of Il Nam O, the old guy. That would be Alf's role.
We will be talking about Alf later in this episode.
That's fine. I'm ready. I did not research these Korean actors. I presume, because they're all very capable actors, I presume they have solid careers in Korean works.
Some do. I knew the main actor was in
He's
some
a
stuff.
pretty prominent Korean
Yeah.
actor, yeah.
I know that they said that. Are you guys talking about Gi-hun? Like
Gi-hun.
Yes.
Yes.
Hun. I guess this thing for him has just really catapulted him to fame.
Mhm.
Like I think that he was on record as saying he just is stunned at how much his life has changed since filming this. So
Mhm.
yeah, I can't imagine how famous he would be, especially in that area.
And he's great at it. I think he does a
Oh,
fantastic
yeah,
job.
he's wonderful.
Interesting character. You feel very differently about him at the beginning than you end up feeling about him.
Yeah, and we'll get into this. I think some of the things about our main character are a little inconsistent over
Oh
time.
yeah.
But I think there are some reasons for that.
Yeah.
Which notably include the horrible dubbing. Because
Oh, did you guys watch the dubbed version of it, or did you watch subtitles?
Subtitles.
I did both. So
See-
I had the dubbed English dub with subtitles.
What do
is
you
I had.
what did you prefer?
Oh, subtitles.
Yeah.
It didn't match, and the English dubbing literally looks like they just pulled hobos off the street and gave them a script to
Some
read.
of it was okay.
Has anyone ever heard good English dubbing? Ever?
No, I don't
One
think so,
time?
which is interesting.
I think
I've never
there's a
heard it.
bigger market for dubbing than there used to be, so
Certainly.
they actually have like pretty good people doing it in some cases. I listened to the dubbed versions, of course, for the sound bites for our episodes, and when I was taking notes. When I watched the series the first way through, just to get the experience, I did watch it with subtitles.
Yeah.
And of course, I prefer it that way too. I agree.
I think there's something about the actor's performance
And you just
too
want-
that if you
yeah.
hear the dubbing, it like
that's
It
what's funny.
throws
it
you
really. I don't feel like I get an accurate picture of it.
That's what's funny is like after watching the 9 with the subtitles, when I watched the first episode dubbed, I was like, "That's not Gi-hun. You get out of here." It was like,
Wait,
that's-
Gi-hun's a bad actor now.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
it's some of the worst.
He's not great. A few of them do fine, but yeah, it's a better experience with subtitles for sure.
And there is disconnect, even with the subtitles, there's a lost in translation factor.
Yeah.
That it's very well noted out there, and you can see YouTube videos of what the director meant and what the Korean meant, the motive, the emotion of the scene, and what we got, even just written in English, was so far off. So and you can kind of tell that if
And
you're watching
thankfully,
this.
like it's a visual medium, so like you
Yes.
definitely get the intent.
Yeah.
But there are some little disconnects.
And I think the dubbing might take it. It definitely might mask it a little bit. It's harder to tell, but yeah, even if you don't have subtitles, but you don't have anything distracting you like bad dubbing, even if you were watching it, you would know kind of what they were going for just based on the acting and the tone.
And I think for anybody that watches subtitled stuff, like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like where there's a little bit of a divide.
This is the first time we've done anything subtitled too, so
Since Hey Dude.
this is this is a first.
They
for
had to
us.
subtitle Mr. Ernst because no one knew what the hell he was saying. Have we done a foreign show yet? I don't think so. This is the first one.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a big deal for us here. We're covering some new ground. So very quickly, the cast, and I'm going to try. Lee Jung-jae, maybe, is Gi-hun.
And I guess I should say this too. So the way that names work in Korea versus English, and I'll use the wall as an example for you guys to see. So in Korean, you would say the last name, the familial name first. So for example, Gi-hun Song would be Song Gi-hun in Korean. In English, we do it first name, last name. So in English, we would call him Gi-hun Song. So that's kind of how that works. So if you see Song and then whatever the first name might be, that's what it is in Korean, if that helps.
Sure.
Yeah. And the subtitles were helpful for that as well, because they're just giving you the first, essentially the familiar name of each character.
Right, yeah, which is what, for the most part, I'll be referring to him as.
So here you go. The Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher in English is Byung-hyun Kim.
Yeah.
In Korean, he's Kim Byung-hyun.
So they would just call him
Oh.
Kim in this show?
They would call him Byung-hyun in this because that's his first name.
But people are still mad about all the home runs he gave up in the playoffs either way.
And his
Ended
tornado.
his career.
Yeah.
Then we've got Park Hae-soo, who is Cho Song-woo. Song-woo, yeah, he's a very important character and a rich failure, essentially. Then we've got Masoud Sepafi, who is Ali, and a very mild-mannered guy who you root for the entire time. Wee Ha-jun, who is Hwang Jun-ho, that's the police officer. The young officer, as the subtitles refer to him as, who investigates and tries to bring down the Squid Game people. And then, okay, so the character Kong Sae-byeok, or something like that, is someone who just is called Hoyan. apparently.
She's a model, and
Oh.
she's one of those models that's like you have one name and that's your identity.
Like,
I see.
Kind of like
I
us,
didn't know
like
that.
how we all just have one name.
Like I'm Van. Mhm.
And I'm actually just reading through the cast for the first time right now, so I didn't know that, and it surprised me. But no, that's interesting. She did a rather capable job, so I didn't know that she wasn't an actress first.
So she was called, I guess, for an audition, and it was kind of just like a casting. I'm using this phrase for a second time today. A casting a wide net thing where they wanted to make sure they got the right actor. And I guess she just kind of blew him away with the actual audition.
I can see
But
it.
I believe this is her first real acting role.
I'm fairly certain that's true.
That's cool.
Though she filmed another thing subsequently. Like at the same time as filming this,
Oh.
she filmed something else that has gained prominence too.
Oh, man.
I don't know what that is.
Surely
That
not as much as
happens-
this.
No.
That happens a lot too, where you'll see an actor for the first time, then they
And then
pop
they're
up in
everywhere.
5 things.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think it's once they've signed that first deal, then all the other studios or whoever
Like, it's
begin to
capitalized.
clamor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then we've got Oh Young-soo, who is the old man, number 1, as we'll be talking about him mostly in these 2 episodes. And then Hyo Sung-tae, who is Deok-soo. He's just a really bad guy. He's the villain of the
Cool
series.
snake tattoo.
He's got a
Terrible
snake
guy.
tattoo on his very wide neck. He's got a very greasy mullet and a
I'd like
constant
to-
sneer.
I'd like to show you guys the picture his actor has an IMDb so you'll see him
Oh,
differently.
I've seen it.
He
Have
looks
you?
very
Yes.
different. Yeah.
He looks so nice.
It actually threw me off because I was like, "Where's number 101?"
So that means that Deok-soo's his character's played by a capable actor then, because he's got that different face the entire
Oh, for
time.
sure. I thought he was very good because I hated him.
Mhm.
He's not very likable.
They do lean a bit on, not tropes, but character traits that they dive right into in the
One
show.
thing, I mean, and it's a minor complaint because this show has a lot on its mind, so to speak, but they really don't. I
There's
don't
no
wanna-
subtlety.
I don't want to say they don't give depth to the characters, but there aren't many shades of gray. Yeah, there's not a lot of subtlety.
No, the
not
characters
even,
are-
certainly not 50 shades of gray.
The characters aren't themselves really the strong suit, like how they're written or anything.
No, and I believe the show creator also mentioned that a lot of what he was going for here was he went to a fancy business school but came up poor.
Mm.
So he's kind of looking at this through
Song-woo.
through Song-woo and Gi-hun's backgrounds combined.
Mm.
But also he wanted all of the characters to essentially be people you might have met.
Right.
So I'm sure he did kind of want to paint with broad strokes. That said, like you pointed out, Van, when it comes to number 101 here, there are times when it's cartoonish.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's over the top oftentimes with him, but he is hateable. Like that's
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Certainly.
He does that part really well. I wasn't sure immediately whether or not he was going to have some redeeming value in the end. I thought maybe he might turn the corner or something.
Who's,
And he does.
who's, who's easier to hate? Him or the religious guy that shows up a little bit through the season?
That's a great question. Yeah,
Ooh, both are very dangerous.
Yeah.
didn't mind.
Hate them both.
Didn't mind what happened either way. So we
Good things.
We open with the intro, which we, of course, played the soundbite of. I wanted us to start with that so the narrator could explain it, because I still don't particularly understand the rules of that game that those kids are playing.
It's a kid's game.
It
It's
doesn't
just
make
full of
any
shit.
sense.
That's
You
all
guys
they
are idiots. The goal is to become Inspector Royal.
You know what they
What's there
call
not
that
to
in America?
understand?
They call that a quarter pounder
Cheeseburger.
royal.
So I guess I'm just not quite getting, though, the whole hopping on 1 foot thing, and then once you cross, you can walk normally. So where is what's the defense doing that's like they get to be on both feet the whole time? Why do they get to do that?
Because they want to keep the attackers out of the middle part, the body of the squid, where the ink would be just deep within. So they can use more dexterity in both feet, of course, to push them out. But then if an offensive player, this would be the equivalent of getting your pawn to the end of the board so it becomes a queen. So if your offensive character or person can get to this certain point, you gain the use of your second
Sure.
foot, which makes it so much easier for
Right.
you. Or then you become the Inspector Royale, which is apparently like a queen in
So
chess.
the-
And you
the
can just
defenders-
sumo somebody's ass off the board at that
The
point.
defenders have the edge until they let them get through.
Right.
Although it seems like that always happens.
It's
From-
just a stupid kid's
yeah,
game.
I know. I
Or
try to figure these things out.
an adult game with life and death consequences.
There's a bit of both in this here. So the actual first scene that we get here that opens up in the modern day, now that we're out of our black and white flashback thing that explains Squid Game, is in Gi-hun's mother's house where he lives. He's down in his luck. He doesn't exactly scream success when you look at him. And he is seated on the floor as Korean people are wont to do with their meals, eating a bunch of food. Also, another thing that they do, the Korean place that I love so much here, that they just give you a bunch of different dishes all over the table. It's fantastic.
And there's a thing with Korean culture where, like, if your mouth is stuffed full of food, that's like a comedy or a compliment kind of thing. Like, whereas Americans would find it like, oh, how could you do that? That's so rude.
Right.
Where it's like, it's a cutesy thing. So
I noticed there were several scenes where he's talking to his mom and he's got his cheeks all puffed out.
Like a chipmunk,
puffed on
full of them.
And he's very boyish despite being 47. I like that about him.
So much older than I thought he was. Like I figured he was, I don't know, like 35 or something. But yeah, he's nearly 50. He's had a rough go of things. His mom is keeping him afloat, but she can only do so much. She's advancing in age, or her health is declining, as we'll figure out. And she's kind of got to keep him on track. She's reminding him in this scene, hey, it's your daughter's birthday. You should do something nice for her. You should get her some fried chicken. You should get her a present.
She loves fried chicken.
Don't we all? It's good.
I do like fried chicken. I don't think I've ever had it as a birthday dinner, but I wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah, if someone gave me some, I'd be cool with it.
One of us has a birthday coming up next month. Maybe someone's going to be eating some fried chicken.
We can make it happen. I know where to get the stuff. I've seen places.
The Road.
So
Hey Fried Sea.
Wait, what was that from?
Killer Joe.
That's
with
what it is.
Matthew McConaughey and Gina Gershon, I think.
I know we discussed that recently.
Yeah.
She was also in Bound, which young me really liked the movie Bound.
I've seen that movie. It's good.
I bought that movie as a young person.
For the plot.
Well, initially it was because
movie.
I thought it would be something that would be visually exciting for a teenage boy. And then in the movie is awesome.
Yeah, it actually is a good movie.
Yeah, I really enjoy that.
Jennifer Tilly. That's the other girl.
That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
AKA the voice of the Bride of Chucky.
So
I don't know why that was the first credit that came to mind, but that is true.
She was also in Liar Liar with Jim's Carrey.
Carrey.
You're bringing it all
back.
You're bringing Jennifer Tilly's career right back to me now.
Squid's Game.
So this first scene here that we get of Gi-hun or Hun, however you want to say it at home.
Hun.
I'm gonna say Hun. I'm going to.
You can be wrong. That's fine.
I mean, I thought that's what they called him in the show. Actually, I thought I heard Gi-hun, but in any case, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We get this particular instance of him is not favorable.
It's not flattering.
He's not good in this scene. As soon as his mom leaves after doing this, he immediately steals your ATM card. So, I mean, there's a lot more depth to him than we know at this point, so we can't go too far. But right now, this first scene, he seems like a shithead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Have you guys seen that Wedding Crashers movie with Will Ferrell that people our age like, but it isn't good?
Once, yeah.
I think I did see
Owen Wilson.
parts of it. I'm not sure I finished
Owen Wilson and Will Ferrell. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the movie I'm thinking of where Will Ferrell's always yelling at his mom. He's like a 40-year-old guy that lives at home. And this scene, I was like, oh, Gi-hun is like that guy. Like Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers. Just yelling for meatloaf or whatever.
With the ATM card, Gi-hun heads right off to the racetrack with his friend. They
his fat-faced friend.
They have a whole drama thing where they're trying to figure out the PIN number. That's I think that's supposed to be a little comedy too. He's guessing his own birthday. That's what it used to be.
He gets down to the final guess.
Yeah, or it's about to lock him out. He guesses wrong the first two times. It's not his birthday anymore. His mom's changed it to his daughter's birthday. So 0608.
That's kind of the gag here at this point. As Gi-hun is excited too. He's like, he even says it in the show of, she likes her granddaughter more than she likes her own son. And it's tongue in cheek, but also it's like, yeah, okay, buddy.
And he has to struggle to remember the date correctly for the pen and stuff.
Because it's the Lunar New Year.
Oh, yeah, the Loon Year.
Moon year.
Moon. The only kind.
The Mooner New Year.
It doesn't take long to get the sense of Gi-hun and his bad luck. The first bet he makes on the horses, it's not good.
Now, do you think that I alluded earlier that I might bring up Alf again? So do you think Nick the Fish actually runs this particular horse betting ring also? Does he have business in Korea?
I was going to say, does Empire grow that large?
Well, it's 2020, so it's 40 years after, or well, I guess 30 years after Alf. So yeah, I think so. I mean, he was good, man.
Now, I will say though, in Korea, he's known as Nick the Squid.
If you look really close, by the way, in this horse racing scene, you can see Booth in the background pretending not to gamble.
Oh, place $200 on loose change.
Have you
You know how
guys
they all have fun names,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the horses?
have you guys ever been to a setting like this place where everyone's
I don't think
out
they're real.
Yeah, unless Korea has something like
Maybe,
this.
I don't know.
The closest I've come to this is the only time I was ever in Las Vegas with our mutual friend, Chris Barboa. I was betting on NBA playoff games. I didn't even know anything about the NBA.
Sure.
It just seemed fun because I could do it. I was in Las Vegas. And there were a lot of people doing a lot of hooting and hollering.
Were they all standing together in a group like
a lot
this?
of them.
Huh.
Now, I'll preface this by saying they probably wagered a lot of money and they were drinking a bunch.
Of course,
So they're, they were excited.
There is an episode of House where House is gambling at a horse race track that's just like this. People chanting and
Yes,
cheering.
that's how it is.
I don't know, I guess so.
I think I said this on the Alpha episode. I think when everything's a little more normal in the world, we should all go to a
That would be
horse
fun.
race and bet on it.
It would be fun as long as you don't mind treating horses as property.
And watching a horse get shot because it falls over or whatever.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of Christian horse movies, and one of them, I think Eric Roberts runs over a horse.
With a van, yes.
Yeah, that's
It's
probably
fine
the same.
though. It's not hurt.
No,
That's
it
a strong
is.
horse.
It legit is fine, which is crazy to think about.
What we have here is Gi-hun has to change his betting approach. And this is another good example as to his mindset because he's kind of redoing his betting. He's making another attempt. And there's a guy behind him kind of trying to talk to him and bother him. And
But
he
he's
just-
like, he at this point is when he changes all his betting numbers to
Yeah.
the Melmac holidays.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. He has
Hits it
no,
big.
he has no rhyme or reason for his bet. He just picks the date. He picks horses 6 and 8 or whatever. But
It's his daughter's birthday.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who, or Melmac, you might have been right the first time.
Well, it can be both at once, I think.
The guy who is trying to talk to him behind him gets an earful from Gi-hun, who is he's just not very nice. He's not very pleasant. We've discovered that at this point about him. He does succeed much more on the second bet, though. The horses do win, I guess. I don't really know how gambling works.
Well, I'm not going to get too into it, but essentially he bet that whatever the numbers were, we'll say 6 and 8.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what they
that's what it
were.
was. He bet that number 8 would finish first, number 6 would finish second. So
A
he got
parlay,
that
if you
perfect.
will, where multiple things have to
That
go
does
right.
seem like it seems like a very risky thing that you would get a lot of money from. And he does.
Well, and I have the translation for
This
dollars
is the
amount
sort
here.
of shit somebody would do that steals their mom's debit card.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Well, he wins 4.5 million won. Won is, of course, the currency of Korea, which in U.S. dollars, what's the translation? It is 1 won equals 0.00084 U.S. dollars. So that's about $3,800 is
That's
what
good.
it is.
Wow.
That's a good haul.
That's pretty good.
That's very
Yeah,
good.
I-
I'm glad you did that.
I meant
love
to do that.
money
I meant to
conversion.
convert, but I just forgot to. It's obviously a lot more.
Well,
'cause,
they
there's-
talk billions
Yes.
later. So
Yeah.
to get my brain to figure, okay, how much is this actually worth? I did this a lot when watching the episodes. I'm like, wait a minute, how much was it? What's the
So
conversion
that
rate?
means that the grand prize of 46.5 billion is
It was like 24 million was the total. So it's
A lot of money.
It's money for
a lot
sure.
of money. And he did come out. I would be thrilled to win $4,000 at a racetrack. I can tell you
Mhm.
that. So yeah, he did come out really ahead here. And he gets awfully excited. He collects his money, gives the horse girl at the the casino
Which is a
worker,
movie with Allison Brie on Netflix.
the casino worker a tip. 10,000 I think is what it is.
Which
I
is like
believe.
$10, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. So he gives her a little nice tip and goes outside, calls his daughter, brags about how he's going to take her to a nice dinner. It's going to be the nicest fried. I think he says fried chicken is not good enough for us or something, you know.
And she's just like, please just get me what I asked for.
He wants to impress her so bad. He doesn't care what she wants anymore.
Dad, you fucking dirtbag. Will you just get what I asked for?
She essentially kind of implies that she thinks he's won when they have their dinner later.
She gives him a lot of side eye throughout the dinner. Even.
Wouldn't you?
She knows at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
At this point in the show, that's kind of what you would do with someone like Gi-hun. So, the bad news is that the creditors are nearby. Gi-hun's creditors, he's got lots of debts. The creditors know this. They figured he'd be here, I guess. They probably look for him at all the gambling places. They've spotted him. They see him celebrating. They know he's got some money. So that changes things real quick. We go on a little chase. He runs back through the building, bumps into the character whose name I need to look at here.
sae-byeok.
sae-byeok.
sae-byeok. Or is it Sai? It might be
It might be
Sai.
sae-byeok.
sae-byeok,
We
that's
won't
it.
really
Yeah.
get to know much about her, but this is an important part where he meets her. He bumps into her. He doubles back and apologizes to her.
Sorry, kid.
Yeah, calls her. And at first I was like, is that a boy? Like, I didn't, because when he said that, I thought it was a girl, but then he says, sorry, kid. And I was like, is that supposed to be a boy? But in any case, this little interaction between them comes up huge later. It's very noticeable. And it kind of is what gets him caught by his creditors, who corner him in the bathroom, start making all kinds of menacing threats to him. This is where we kind of get to know how much trouble he's in with his debts. And the lead henchman creditor guy, as I wrote him down, is more than a little creepy. He's actually not only menacing in the sense that he's making him bleed, but he decides to go ahead and taste his blood. He makes his nose bleed, puts his finger on it, licks it, says it's delicious.
It's a real good way to get hepatitis.
I like to think when they were done with this beatdown and Gi-hun's gone and everything, then the gang members get together and that leader guy that licks the blood's like, was that good, guys, or what?
That was pretty cool, right?
I was just fucking feeling it, and I just went with it. I didn't know I was going to do that, and then I had the blood on my hands, and I just, you know what, I did it. I went for it.
I was in the moment, man.
It's at this point Gi-hun realizes that his money's gone, and he figures out it must have been that fucking girl, that kid, as he thought of her as. She pickpocketed me. When he shares this with the creditor's none too pleased. I've got a little clip of their interaction here.
No why. Nosebleeds are so easy to get, huh? Because there are so many capillaries up there.
Oh no, don't do this. I don't want to die.
Your blood was tasty. I think my boys and I should make a nice, delicious soup with it tonight.
I'll pay you. I mean it.
Coward's blood soup. Delicious.
Nosebleed soup is the clip that I called that, I believe.
Yeah, you did. You had some
Nosebleed
great
soup.
names for these clips, by the way.
We get it. We get a little sense, like I said, what he's up against. These are scary guys. Presumably they're actually dangerous. They're not just predators. They actually do want the money or he's going to die. He's threatened with, next it's going to be kidneys, eyes, things like that. So,
and this is our first indication that like body part harvesting is a big part of the economy in this world.
apparently so, yeah. As a
He
recurring
even
theme.
signs a contract here, which points another thing, which at first I hated. This organized gang isn't gonna have a signable contract, and then I kind of, after watching the series, realized that probably in the world of this show, it's supposing we go further down the capitalist route of just saying crime's fine, wink, wink. But I don't know.
That's an interesting way
I
to
don't
look
know
at
if
it.
that's the implication or not. Is all I'm saying.
My thing I wrote
might
down
be working
was,
too hard to give them credit for that.
That's true. I just wrote I don't think that's going to hold up in court. I don't think if you take Gi-hun to court, you're going to be like, no, this is what I wrote it down. It was the disclaimer of physical rights contract. I don't know that that's.
I don't
gonna
know
work.
if Judge Mathis is going to let this one through.
Apparently it's perceived as legit because later on the recruiter for the Squid Game mentions that he signed away his physical rights. So I have no idea. That's what he intends to do in this case here anyway, is sign away his physical rights so they can start taking his organs if he can't pay in the future. He's given a month. So he's got some time, but things are very dire. And in the immediate circumstances, he no longer has the money for his daughter's birthday.
No, his $4,000 is gone too.
Yeah, the whole thing. So he's lost everything. His circumstances have changed considerably in a very brief time period. He does have to go back to the horse girl and take back his 10,000, by the way.
Okay, this is getting pretty dark, guys. We've got some violence here. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the last time Spencer chose a show that was really dark, aka 21 Jump Street, I felt the need to ease the tension.
No, I don't remember this at all.
You don't? Okay, well, let me remind you. This is where we found out about Scouse the Mouse, which is Donald Pleasance's children's book. This is where we found out that Walker couldn't save that kid from jumping off the building because people bullied him. We found a lot of cool stuff about that. So I've done the same thing.
Okay.
I'd like to bring some levity to the situation.
That's good, because things are about to get even tougher for us, so why not?
So let's take a listen to a clip from one of the preeminent comedy series that American television has ever seen.
This is Gassy Gus. I made him. I'm also an inventor.
You invented the fart?
Well, that's right. That's according to Jim. According to Jim, one of the preeminent comedies.
Nobody fucking told me according to Jim was hilarious.
It's the funniest show you've ever seen, my friend. And I feel like according to Jim can lead us to the promised land of being happy.
Okay.
So I hope I've eased the tension a little bit.
I mean, I laughed.
There'll be more to come.
Fair enough.
According to you, there will be.
According to Van, there will be according to Jim.
The next scene immediately does actually go in a more comedic direction. So you should have just waited a little longer, but I'm glad that
I'm
we got
impatient.
that clip. Because Gi-hun is at an arcade now throwing away even more of the money that he's already lost playing the claw machine game where you...
Yeah, the most efficient way to get a gift for your kid.
There's got to be a better way for that $10 or whatever that he has left, but he's just throwing that in the machine trying to win a prize.
Man, shout out to my sister and super show listening all-star Mandy, who the last time I witnessed her play one of these claw machine games, she won on the first try.
Man.
At a Dave & Buster's. It's a
It sounds
Pac-Man
rigged.
pillow, which I am now in possession of.
They are rigged.
Possession of.
No, I don't think it happened. No one wins at claw games ever.
Look, I've been overruled.
Well, the thing is...
I am higher up than you as we're recording, so therefore what I say goes. I'm the judge.
Yeah, and who is he to have his own memories and his
Son
own
of a
past?
bitch.
You tell him how it went for him, not the other way around. There is someone on site here at the arcade that actually is an expert at the claw game.
Just a fat
It's a
little boy.
small boy with a sack of prizes to prove that he's really good at it. And the key is you just have to visualize what you want.
Now, when you
before.
guys saw this little boy with a sack over his shoulder, were you first like Santa, and then you were like, "Oh no, that's just somebody else with a sack of presents"?
No, I can't say that I got that idea.
I was.
It's just usually if I see a guy with a sack of gifts,
Yeah, that would
9
be-
times out of 10, boom,
Be a
Santa.
really shitty Santa. He just got it all from a claw game.
It's just bad stuffed animals.
I was running late, but I'm very good at the claw game.
They do succeed together, this unlikely duo.
And they
And
zoom
the-
in, by the way, on this kid's hands as he's playing the claw game. He has like 6-inch long fingernails.
Maybe that's why he's so good at it.
It's creepy. Like a little fat boy with just like talons. Like
Maybe
he's,
he's
gonna
going for that
He's
world
going to grow
record.
into his hand someday.
You see that every now and then, though. Do you guys ever encounter somebody and you just have... I'm not a hand looker, but sometimes I see a person's hands and their nails are a lot longer than I expect.
Well, like mine are always a little too long because the skin grows too far and I will
Yeah.
cut the skin
I've
and it
done
like
that.
bleeds forever.
Ow.
So I can't even trim them that shallow. So I hate that about my
I
fingernails.
can't go very far in mine either. It
Neither.
starts getting sensitive.
Also hurts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hurts
Not
to
a
do
fan.
anything.
And, you know, maybe the fat little boy who wins all these prizes has a bad home life and he doesn't know how to
Do we know if the
clean it.
Maybe he
nails...
sells them.
So he's good at this,
He's
this
very
claw
good.
machine
Mhm.
game. Or
He's
do
the
the
best.
nails come into play with that? Maybe they're helpful.
I was wondering, yeah, I don't know. They get, I feel like he did a bad job picking. There were actual things you could see what they were. He got the black box with the bow around it, so you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And I mean, it looks nice. It could be something special, but
Couldn't be a gun.
there were some there were some things in there that looked like it would be a definite could work for the girl. And this box, we don't know what's in there at this point. So I think he did a bad job despite meaning well.
Let's take a moment to refill our squids, have a break, and then when we get back, more Squid Game.
We do get to find out right away what's in this black box because we get the birthday meal now, which is one of the saddest things in the entire show, honestly.
Well, I don't know in the entire show.
If we're talking about from an interpersonal standpoint and not murder, then yes, this is
Okay,
very
if
emotional.
you're counting situations where people remain alive,
I loved it when that guy had to murder his wife, but this really got me.
It's a touching father-daughter moment that, you know, both were hoping would be more than it was, is how I was viewing that. No one dies yet, though. That's later. The birthday meal itself isn't the problem. In fact, Gi-hun's daughter, which I didn't write her name down, but that's okay. We'll just call her Gi-hun's daughter. She says she's fine with the cheat meal because she really likes, let's see if I can pronounce this, tteokbokki.
I already forgot what it was. Katie and I discussed it when it came up, and she's like, oh, yeah, it's really good, but I don't remember what it was.
Apparently it's delicious, but she's not allowed to eat it because it's junk food in her new home with her mom's new husband or whatever. So this is
with
like
her
a
goddamn stepdad.
stepdad. Yeah, it's a special thing. They already went to a steakhouse earlier. She kind of rubs in a little bit. She's like, that's fine. I already ate
And
earlier.
she's like, oh, sorry, my nerd stepdad already wanted to one-up you preemptively.
So we do figure out after this meal, she opens the present, which is, as Van said, a gun, but not a real gun, a gun that's a lighter. So probably the worst gift you could give a 10-year-old girl, I've got to think.
It's up there.
It's also like a realistic looking
It looks like a
gun.
real
Yeah.
gun.
And here's the thing. In the U.S., you can't have that because guess
No.
what? People kill people with guns a lot in the U.S. I can see that being a thing where
In
they
the
just
U.S.,
don't care.
I
in
think
Korea.
you just have to like sign a sheet of paper
It
and then
doesn't
you can
take
wave
much.
it around in
Yeah.
the air
Yeah.
and keep it in your pants or whatever.
But there, I think that toy guns probably don't have the laws. Like you have to have an orange tip in the U.S. to show that it's a fake gun. But I imagine they may not have those because gun violence is virtually
Not
non-existent.
that big a deal,
yeah, right. Makes sense.
You wouldn't get that from the show, but
It's like how here you could totally have a replica sword because they don't assume you're going to go have people, but that we don't have a lot of like school sortings. It doesn't go that direction.
By the way, guys, I can't get past this
Nobody William Wallace's a bunch of people.
this heat I took on calling that scene sad. The murder scenes weren't sad. They weren't sad.
I'm glad that we've come back to that.
They were not
I can
really
tell it was
anything other than
lingering a bit.
horrifying. Yeah, I stand by the emotional resonance of this scene. It is affecting, and the other scenes, people are just getting massacred. It's awful, but it's not
What
really
about
sad.
some of the conversations that they have inside?
Some of the later games, Marbles is sad. Marbles
That's
is
what
sad.
I was personally
yeah.
thinking of.
Yeah,
when we-
but
that whole episode.
The rest of the stuff is mostly just kind of traumatic and
since-
scarring and horrible.
when we say Marbles, we don't mean Mr. Marbles, the puppet from Seinfeld.
Although he might be sad too. I don't know a lot about him. Now that we've clarified that, and you guys have gotten to talk about a few extra things, and
now that we've clarified that I was correct that this moment was sad.
I stand by it. That's all I have to say. No, and
You know what? You can have the high chair because you push
quite
your
frankly,
narrative.
see, I don't need the actual physical thing to make me high. I'm the host,
You have
and what I
the-
say just goes. I
That's
don't need
fair.
the chair.
Agreed. We all respect the
Although
host
my
position.
chair
The
is
host
very
position
low.
can rule with an iron. What is that?
Throat.
Iron throat.
Wait, did you forget Iron Fist?
Yes.
You forgot
What
the
do you
phrase
think it
rule
might
with
have
an Iron
been?
Fist.
I launched
face.
right into that me saying that, just assuming I would know how it ended.
Yeah, no, I get it. You start on the path, and
Yeah.
you're like, I'll get there when I get there.
I'll get
and
there.
Then,
This is a really common phrase. Nope.
Iron Throat.
They call me Iron Throat. Guess what I'm good at?
So this night ends, by the way, the daughter is about to tell him some big news, doesn't. You can tell she's holding back. It doesn't happen. So they end this dinner. He takes her home. We see the ex-wife for the first time who clearly hates him. That's really the whole point of that scene when he drops her off, is that they're not on good terms.
This is one of those very, very shallow portrayals we get of the of Gi-hun's ex-wife and the
Yeah.
stepdad here.
There's not a lot there. Yeah, all you can tell is things went badly and they hate Gi-hun, who they think is a total piece of shit. So that's
And
really,
who are we to say otherwise at this point?
I thought he was, yeah.
Very
for
much
sure.
true.
After this horrible day has taken place, Gi-hun's at the subway station. He misses the subway home, has to wait for the next one. Perfect opportunity for the show to assert itself in our face here and tell us exactly what the fate of Gi-hun is going to be the rest of the way. Where a strange man with a suit and briefcase sits next to him and starts talking to him. Which, admittedly, I agreed with Gi-hun here. He's skeptical because if a stranger comes up to you, especially like a well-dressed one like that, and just starts talking, you assume that they've got some kind of
If
agenda.
anyone comes near you, anywhere near a subway,
I've never been to a
with
subway.
a sense of purpose on their face,
Especially if his name's Jared.
yeah.
We need more.
You'd-
We need actual subways. I've been to those subways. I really want to be in a subway at some point in my life. They're filthy. They're filthy and interesting. I feel like something you could tell a lot of stories about just one time in a subway.
It's a really good place to see a poster for a Gilmore Girls reunion convention that's going to happen 2 years ago. Which
Was
is
this in the background?
This is something that I always saw. So I passed a subway entrance every day going to work in Philadelphia.
I forgot about your fancy East Coast pass.
Well, no, it was anything but fancy. And they had all these posters up by the subway that were from there before I ever moved there, and they just never changed them out.
Seems like a
They
thing
were
that
just
would happen.
tacked up by the subway wall.
Did you ever ride a subway when you were there?
No, I went down in the subway station
Is
because
it
you can just
scary?
go down there. Not really.
It seems like it
but
would be.
Was it gross? Yes.
And to the point of this show and South Korea's point, this subway's actually not bad
No,
compared
it's
to what we
nice.
would see.
It's like high
And
tech.
also, like, when we say this is as people who have just always gotten to have cars.
Yeah, we know
You know,
nothing about public transportation.
we don't live in big metropolises.
Yeah,
and-
we're fortunate enough in that sense too to have that resource. So public transit, it's a good thing.
It is.
Do you guys name your cars?
Nope.
Yeah.
I do. What's your name?
The current one is Yoshimi, is its name.
Does she battle the pink robots?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Mine is Sarah Jane.
That's
And
pretty.
she's right on the other side of that wall.
Sarah
Yes,
Jane.
she is.
Which is named after a character from a 80s cartoon show called Brave Star. Have either of you heard of this?
No.
I neither. It's about a Native American who lives on this planet called Texas, and his best friend is a horseman. And the first episode, I watched it with Katie because she loved it. It was a little before our times. Katie's a little bit older than us. The first episode has the horseman get this special gun, And the moral of the story is not, don't shoot people. It's agree to disagree. Because the horse wants to shoot everyone. The Native American guy doesn't want to shoot everyone. So then they're just like, you know what?
They shoot
If
some
you want to
people.
shoot everyone, it's fine.
Can you imagine being like living in a time where society has come down to like two sides essentially? One of them that is bloodthirsty and essentially wants to eliminate anyone not like them, and the other one wants peace. But for some reason, you have to meet in the middle with that shit? Wonder what it would be like to live in a society like that. Anyway, let's talk about a show that talks about that.
Be no good.
A little bit. Yeah, I think there's maybe some hints at some social messages in this show, perhaps, that we can get into soon. Very soon, because this marketing-looking guy is, looks like a salesman, is selling something.
Mm-hmm.
Death, and just the most horrible things you can imagine.
I did like Gi-hun stopping him right away and saying, "I don't believe in Jesus."
What
Like,
about-
assuming that's where it's going.
What about pointing the model gun at him and briefly convincing him it
seemed
was
like
a real
bit
gun?
much.
Perhaps a bit.
Again, maybe they don't have the gun violence, or I know they don't have the gun violence in Korea, so it's not as frightening.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can
to
just
them.
do that.
They're
And
just
then-
like, oh, he's got a gun. He won't shoot me.
He's
No one
just going to
shoots
light
me
a
here."
birthday cake.
So he opens the briefcase at this point to show him, hey, I mean no harm. I got something in here. Bunch of money and some, I don't really know how to describe these. Giant like Korean blocks, toy blocks.
Folded
discs.
tiles.
They're like envelopes full of stuff, like cloth envelopes full of something. It's very weird.
Now that I wrote down the name of this game, and it's very recognizable to them, I guess. The Dokji? I guess Dokji?
Katie
Dokji.
knew of it. It's like giant pogs is what I thought of, because that's what you do with pogs. You slam the slammer on the pogs, and if they flip over.
That's the whole time I was like, if Gi-hun had a Shaquille O'Neal slammer.
Yeah, he needed something, because the premise of this, the salesman just says, hey, you beat me, you win. It's like 1,000 or something, 100,000.
It was 100,000 won, which is like $1,000. Is that right? Something
Crazy.
like that. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's offering him a bunch of money. All he has to do is beat him at Dokji. Problem is, Gi-hun is very bad at Dokji, or this guy is just really good at it. I don't know. I couldn't really tell.
You gotta think this guy
is a
is
monster.
incredible at Dokji. Like, this is he probably
I mean,
was
it is
pro
his job,
when he was
right?
younger.
Because
Yeah,
that's
they're
what he
like, they
does.
hired him on at the Squid Game to be the Dokji guy.
I think it's partly to show that he's clearly well dressed, he's well off.
Mhm.
It's partly on a
The
deeper
class
understanding to be like, well, look, the class.
And he
he's well off. He was
comes in-
capable of doing.
He
this.
comes in with a preconceived advantage also that he's always had. Like, he
Correct.
knows the rules and has been brought up in that, whereas Gi-hun doesn't know shit. Another nice little metaphor, I'd say.
So they play several rounds of this, and all you see, it's like a montage. All you see is the guy winning over and over again. And Gi-hun, of course, can't pay when he loses.
What happens?
So the salesman suggests he pay with his body. That's actually the way he phrases
I
it.
thought this was going to be different briefly.
It'd be a frightening thing to hear.
I
no
thought they
matter
were
who
going to
you
have
are.
sex with one
Yep.
another.
And forcibly. But no, it turns out he just slaps Gi-hun every single time that he loses, which is again and again and again. His face is
Would you
just
guys
red
do
and
this for
swollen.
$1,000?
No, there's no way.
Yeah, I'd do it.
That's then you would play in the Squid Game. Then is the moral of this story.
I think I would wind up in the Squid Game. I'd be out after the first round.
Well,
though.
yeah,
You did not even kind of try to deny that.
No.
Like, you would play the flip game and then wind up in the Squid Game
Yeah.
naturally.
Do you mean that you would be out as in that you would get shot and killed? Or
I think I could make it through the first game.
I would be too horrified to
You
move.
would absolutely trip and be shot.
That's the problem. If I maintain my balance, which is a big if.
That would be so hard in that circumstance. I mean, I don't.
I figure being a tall drink of water, what I would do if I wound up in the Squid Game, which I would,
Run behind
is
me.
I would do the run behind. Yeah.
But we see the old man, we're getting ahead of ourselves, scampering along.
He's
he
having
makes
the best
it
time.
Oh, he's having a
Joyfully.
great time, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that very shortly because that's what all this leads to here. But eventually, Gi-hun gets his win, and this is actually really funny. He, instead of getting the money, like he thinks, yes, I finally get to slap him. That made me laugh because he's like, I've been waiting for this. He holds out his
The
hand.
money's exited his mind.
He just wants to slap the guy back. But the guy reminds him, no, you actually won money. Here you go. So he then says, look, this kind of thing doesn't have to be the last time this happens for you. We have all kinds of stuff like this here at the Squid Game festival, whatever they call it.
Oh, it was
And-
$83 is what he would win on a slap. That's what
Still,
it was.
you know,
Which,
that's- yeah.
I wouldn't do it for $100. I'd do it for $1,000 though.
It's a lot of money for him to just win for playing a game with this guy.
Getting just slapped
although
silly.
he did kind of earn it by the end. Yeah, like with all that slapping. In any case, this is where the whole idea comes from. He gives him the business card. It's nice and fancy and professional. We know that this is an actual organization that does this, piques his interest. At this point, he's just happy to have the money.
I like the look of this business card.
Yeah, it's something.
I think he's about to go play PlayStation based on the shapes on it.
So yes, the first thing I thought was PlayStation, but I should actually tell you guys about this. So Spencer, you asked what we knew about the show coming in. I have seen T-shirts at Target, Walmart, things like that with the Squid Game symbols on them.
Oh, okay.
And the whole time, every time I've seen them, and other merchandise too, I think, what these fucked up PlayStation
I had no
symbols?
idea it was that big, that where the merchandise was just all over
the whole
place.
time I've never known what it was, but now I do.
Are you going to get one?
No, I would like to
would
point
have
out
probably
we have-
already worn it to this podcast.
Oh, you should. We have a big board that we add all of the show titles to
We do.
whenever we come up with them. So I made an addition to Squid Game for you,
Okay.
Spencer.
Excellent. We have the little
Perfect.
symbols
Put
drawn
the
in.
shapes on there.
Very nice.
PlayStation.
This really turns Gi-hun's day around. He's in a great mood now. He stops at the market real fast on his way home. It's a fish chopping lady's market stall is what I have down. This is actually Song-woo's mother, who we will learn all about very soon
Which
here.
explains Gi-hun's familiarity with her, too, since
Right.
they've known each other since childhood.
Yeah. He and Song-woo were friends growing up. As he says here, he asks the mother how Song-woo's doing. Has she heard from him? And
Where did Song-woo go? Because the show doesn't ever tell you what important thing he's done in his
So
life.
you really, really have to really squint your ears to catch it.
yeah, this is a recurring theme. But he actually graduated from Seoul National University. And
Oh,
he's a
SNU.
big deal. He's a big deal. Yeah, and his mom is super proud about that. She has this graduation picture right by her stall, and she tells everyone about him. But yeah, he's an SNU graduate, and this is a big deal. And even Gi-hun is proud of that in a way. He's like, I got him there.
My friend
he
went to a
feels
fancy
like he
school.
did it somehow.
I guess it's like if you knew somebody that
Yeah,
went to
who made it
Harvard or
big.
whatever.
Yeah.
Although to me, I'd be like fucking sellout loser.
Well, what I got from this, or from that interaction of Gi-hun and Song-woo, is that Gi-hun, there's something that happened that Gi-hun this is oversimplifying, took the blame for something, and that allowed Song-woo to ascend to the heights. So he got there on the back of
And that
Gi-hun.
would be consistent with what they're presenting are the terms of their friendship
Right.
later in the show too. I really, for some reason, I liked the dynamic between Gi-hun and Sang-woo's mom here, like the familiarity and they're very playful and they play off each other really well. I like that Gi-hun is trying to be really kind because he's won this money, and when he pays for the fish at the fish market, he actually underpays her on accident.
This is actually one of the lighter moments here because he gets the fish from her. They talk, they chat. He's goofy. She teases him a little bit. They clearly have like a long running rapport. And I really enjoyed the scene, of course, where he stops and feeds the Korean cat. I like to call it a Korean cat as if cats have races. But he sees a hungry, starved, it's a stray cat. It's very adorable. And he just goes ahead and shares some of his fish with it. I enjoyed this so much, I actually have the clip of it.
You hungry? Huh? Here. Come on. You have to finish it, okay? I got that with money I made getting slapped, so enjoy it.
I love that line.
That was fantastic. Even the subtitles made me laugh when I read that, like not knowing what he was saying.
I made that money by getting slapped.
Did I say good boy out loud during this scene by myself? Yes, I did.
I can imagine you did. We immediately get another reference to this thing where he got slapped, which also made me laugh because he's back at his house now. He's having, I guess, dinner with his mom. He's still cheerful. She not so much, as we learn a little more about why soon. That she's suspicious. Where'd this money come from? Why is your face red? and he's indignant. And he says he worked his hands and face off all day for that money, which did make me laugh a little bit.
No, that's good.
It
That's
is
legitimately
He's
funny.
not wrong, too. He did work his hands and face a lot for that money. So the topic shifts now to his daughter. the thing that she didn't tell him at the birthday dinner that she was, I guess, too sad to tell him because it was a very sad scene.
The saddest from what I've heard.
What's going to happen here is her new family, the stepfather and the ex-wife, they're all up and moving. He got a new job. They're going to America. So there will not be any more Gi-hun daughter in Korea
I
anymore.
hope they're not starting their own podcast, giving us more competition.
Son of a bitch. I'd challenge him to a game in which I murdered him.
Gi-hun's mom is very concerned about this. And I'm sure she has many reasons. You know, obviously she loves the girl. She changed her ATM pin to the birthday, but the reason she gives him was kind of odd that she know what's going to happen. She's going to forget to speak Korean and you're not going to be able to talk to her anymore.
And
What a
basically
reason.
she'll lose the culture but what's weird about this to me, or no, I won't say weird about it. I understand why she's concerned, but Gi-hun, I mean, he can't even make ends meet for himself at this point in time. And it feels like, let's add if you add this much pressure to a guy who's already about to crack, he might do something
bad.
wild, like enter a competition of 456 people where the goal is to not die.
Well, you might have just stumbled upon the next plot point. I'm sure that was an accident. Because he's I wrote down sad scrolling. He's going through his phone. He's looking at the pictures of his daughter. He's like, damn it, that's my daughter, and she's going to go to America.
We've all sad scrolled before.
Oh,
Squid
yeah.
scroll.
Squid scroll, that's a good one.
Look at all the squids in my phone.
I stole it from the doom scrolling thing everyone was doing during the pandemic when it was raging at its hardest. You know, they were saying going through your news then was doom scrolling. So I decided
I really
scroll.
feel like the doom scrolling trend went on a big uptick here, starting specifically in 2016 for some reason, and then has continued and gotten worse.
I still doom scroll routinely. That's about my only kind of scrolling. It's not a happy scroll. So yes, he does decide this is gonna just force me to go play Squid Game, and he calls that number right away that the strange man left him, and that's his fate sealed. A van pulls up to pick him up I assume right away. Is that the same night? Did you guys think?
Seems like
I
it.
It seems
think
like it.
so, and he's the last player,
Right.
too.
Yeah, they did say they didn't have many spots left, so I guess they weren't lying in that case. Although that's a classic salesman tactic. He gives the
You
password.
really got to get in this evil, vile game where people die, because if you don't, you're going to regret it a month from now.
Oh, I've got fear of missing out. I'd better do it.
That's all right. You know what? I'm going to give it to the next lucky caller.
No. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Maybe I'll pull some strings for you.
Oh, whew, I'm so lucky.
Do you guys happen to remember what the password is to get into the van?
No, I don't.
Oh, it's the episode title.
Squid.
Squid, yes.
The
Red light, green
Yeah.
light.
Red light, green light. That gets him in there, and he's like, "Oh, there's a crowd of people in the van already in there." He's like, "Oh, everyone seems real sleepy," and
This seems normal.
Oh, I
no
wanted
one
to kind
woke
of get
up.
to know everybody, but I guess everybody's too tired.
they're off to this incredibly life-changing event, and they just all fell asleep out of fatigue when they got in there. Well, it's knockout gas, and it immediately hits him in the face full blast when he gets in the van. He's out. When he wakes up, he's in a facility, barracks-like setting, kind of futuristic barracks-like,
Yeah.
kind of creepy.
Bunk beds everywhere.
Looks like a big warehouse, yeah. And it's honestly very odd and futuristic.
Squid Game's warehouse.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
going to
and
like
the
the way you
Squid
look.
Games warehouse.
I don't
you
know what
guys.
else to call it.
The Squid Games warehouse is super fucking cool.
It is.
Everything looks
I
interesting.
wrote down that it's very modern. Like the colors were like purple and green at points. Like it's very futuristic and vibrant colors in the setting. And there's classical music playing over the loudspeaker.
Like everything has kind of its own like sleek kind of look to it in terms of like we'll get into it more, but like the furniture, the
Somebody
guards.
worked really hard on that set.
Yeah.
And did a very good job because this is obviously the main setting of the whole show. And it's very important that it hits you full blast when you see it, and it does.
Because like we watched Holmes and Yo-Yo the last couple weeks, and that was like looking at sand. And this is very vibrant. It's very like your eyes are overtaken by it.
Yeah.
It's 90-degree angles, and
Yeah.
shininess. We
Yeah.
like it.
Angular is another good. Yeah, it is.
It felt very futuristic, and it absolutely, whatever it was setting out to do, it definitely succeeded in that, because you are just kind of blasted with this when I almost called him Gi-hun, when he wakes up, you know, you're seeing what he sees. That
Yeah,
crazy,
and-
like, wow, where am I?
And
What
you're
is this?
dazzled by it. And that's another good choice too, in terms of the direction of the episode. And I think that any show like this that's going to be operating on something of its novel concept and setting, you need to make the setting its own. This is cliche, but like its own character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they did.
Very much so. In addition to this strange new setting, everyone, while they were asleep, has been changed into jumpsuits.
That would concern me the most.
Yeah.
Like, you took my pants off. Who took my pants off?
All right, I'm out. The bloodshed was fine.
But you removed the pants? Come on. I'm afraid of this body, thank you.
Also, jumpsuits are just not flattering.
Have you seen my jumpsuit? Zardoz.
They've all got their player number stitched on the front, so they know what order they joined in. Gi-hun is 456, and we find out that's all the players there are. So he was literally the last one to join. He immediately bumps into an old man wearing 001, which I had to laugh at the idea that someone was actually 007 in this group. We didn't meet them, but someone was 007.
Daniel
was
Craig.
James Bond.
I'm ready to perform in the contest.
They do it for whatever reason in extra digits. I think, isn't Gi-hun actually 0456, I want to say, isn't he?
He might be. I think so.
In any case, yeah, there's only 456, but they sometimes put zeros in front. Like the old man is 001, but he's just number one. And we can call him the old man, we can call him number one.
Number one in my heart.
Yeah. They have a quick conversation and, they seem to be hitting it off. The old man has a brain tumor, says he's got little time left. Seems to be just there seeking adventure for his final days, as far as you can tell. But he's cheerful. He's friendly. And they do kind of hit it off right away in some degree. Right away, though, a big nasty fight breaks out nearby between two other players. We've got number 101, which is Soo, the horrible man that we just can't stand.
Just a quick refresher, this is the neck snake tattoo mullet man.
Good description.
Real
Big
slab of
broadhead.
beef.
Yeah, just like Booth from Bones looked at this guy and went, okay, all right, this is impressive.
All right, now this man's a square. And I don't mean that in a nerdy sense.
Or a squib. Did he say that in our Bones episodes? Booth calls people who are in the lab squibs. And it's the stupidest thing. Or squint. Fuck, I fucked it up. Squint. Because
that's
they're always
unfortunate.
squinting.
So
at
we
things.
can't call Bones a squib game then.
Sadly, no. It'd be squint games.
The other person in this fight is player number 67, who is Kong Sae-byeok. And they apparently knew
a tiny woman.
a very tiny woman. They apparently knew each other from some criminal past that they shared that didn't end well. So Soo is just beating the shit out of Kong Sae-byeok, who is not really fighting back, as far as you can see.
Well, I mean, how?
I got to think she could have done something more than she did. She kind of seemed to be letting him have that one. She's tough, as we learn later.
Yeah, so as we learn later, I think she could have fucked him up pretty good.
For some reason, she just kind of let him do that, though. She's like, whatever, I don't care. And the funny thing to me here is Gi-hun realizes that that's the pickpocket from the racetrack and actually is so determined to confront her that he goes in the middle of their fight to talk to her. I would think that would be a bad time to go be like, hey, I know you. You stole my money from me, which you clearly don't have since you're in here. Like, it doesn't matter. That I just now realized why she stole that money. I just now realized it, and I've watched that entire show. So that's funny that it just now clicked to me. The thing about this scene is I'm not really sure this is another scene I'm not sure what to make of Gi-hun here. Like, is there part of him that's breaking up the fight to help her, or is it just because?
Yeah, not at this point.
Just because. See, I wasn't sure at first. It was like, is he doing this to be nice, or is he actually just like, you bitch, I want my money?
I think it's that.
I think for a while we don't see that character growth from. We do later, but in the next episode he does another thing that reiterates to me, no, he's just out for himself. But at first, this made me mad, too, because there's 400 people in here watching a young woman get beat up by a burly man and doing absolutely nothing. And then later, as the show's themes become apparent...
You can see why they wouldn't.
Why that's the choice that... Well, because those players don't know what this game is, so they would have no reason not to help other than the show's theme, which is, again, like... When you go to theoretically help your neighbor, the response might be like, fuck, I've got my own problems. And I think that's kind of what the show's saying
definitely.
here.
And that's what all these people would do. However, there are some people who you kind of meet later, mostly Ali, who I feel like probably would have helped and should have been in there helping.
To the point where, and we'll talk about the character of Ali later, and I won't really get into it much now, but he's definitely supposed to be like
he's the easiest
the
to root
purest
for.
good guy.
Too much so in some cases.
For sure.
Actually,
he's the dumb guy who always means well, because he's clearly not that bright, and that's not necessarily a knock against him. He just doesn't have that.
At one point, very early on in my notes, I put down, "Is this going to be our Jesus?" Like essentially.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, that's fair. The first scene here that happens, the conflict here establishes some of the characters that are very important going forward. We establish that. In the middle of all this, we get our first sighting of the guards, who wear different gear, orange, and they all have different shapes on their masks.
The PlayStation shapes.
Yes, and the square is the leader, which is really funny when what's her name? Mianu Han, whatever. When she tells
Minyo, yeah.
she tells the guard later on, I believe it's a couple episodes from this one, like she doesn't want him. She's like, I don't want you, I want your square supervisor or whatever.
yeah, that's
she knows
great.
him, but I hadn't even noticed the shapes dictated like order of command at that point, so that was really funny to me.
Was is the order? It's circle is the lowest, and
I believe so, and then triangle and then square.
Okay.
Yeah. So the guards are all in their garb. They come out in an impressive line with their guns. They fire it in the air to get everyone to stop fighting. So the guards are very quick to point out that they do come in peace despite their intimidating presence. The players are also a little bit upset about the way they've arrived here, understandable. And there's a bunch of them speaking up saying this isn't quite what we were expecting. We didn't sign up for this. Why'd you take it to this weird warehouse? Including SNU graduate Song-woo. He makes
Which is like the Bunko Squad of this show.
The Bunko Squad?
The Bunko Squad.
The Bunko Squad.
SNU.
They decide to use Song-woo as an example, and they show his recruitment process on a big screen TV mounted on the wall for everyone to watch, that he did exactly what everyone else did. He got slapped by the guy playing Dokji and has tons of debt. So they go through the line, they list many players' debts and how much they owe and just how much shit.
And show their surveillance videos of
all
them.
Kinds of stuff.
Really saying like, yeah, you really think you can, like, look how powerful we are.
Mm-hmm.
We've got everything on you, and you guys are just here for, you'll do what we want you to do, basically, at this point, is what we're establishing. But the guards are also saying, you are free to leave. You did agree to come here. You were all agreed to come here. You wanted to because your situations are dire. But that being said, you have the option to leave if you want to right now.
It's like being chased to a cliff by a gunman, and they're like, you've got a way out, you can jump.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, I felt like the reason no one takes the guards up, though, was because they're still like, yeah, I really do want whatever this money is here.
Well, they also,
like
at this point, they don't know what this is.
Yeah, it's a big mystery at this point, and I do think that the reminder of their financial situations, like, okay, let's hear it out and see what happens, because they want money more than anything. Gi-hun asks how much the prize money is at this point, in which this is where the giant piggy bank descends from the ceiling with the 16-bit graphic soundtrack playing with it.
And they've got a big old Angelatron that shows how many players are still alive and stuff too, which is pretty cool.
At this point, the suggestion is just that the payout's huge, but they won't say exactly how much it is. They just lower the piggy bank and say that the money accumulates after each game. The amount will be disclosed after each game is played. So they don't get to know exactly how much they're getting until they play the first game. And with this out of the way, since no one left, it's time to sign the player consent form, which has 3 clauses of great importance. All of them will come up later on in the show. Clause 1 is that a player is not allowed to stop playing. Clause 2 is that a player who refuses to play will be eliminated. And then Clause 3, games may be terminated if the majority agrees to do so at any point. So all 3 of those clauses considered, the players go in there and they put down their signature. This is like an entire orientation process. They all get their pictures taken and they kind of go through
the syllabus.
You get to see a whole bunch of the facility at this point as they're doing that.
The
so it's
HR
kind of
director comes in and talks about what's appropriate.
It is. It's kind of a light moment. You got the one guy who's making faces in front of the camera, and they're all kind of not aware exactly what they're about to get themselves involved in.
You get your seating assignments, that sort of thing.
It did look like first day of school or something. We also get a first glimpse of the front man in his hooded robes, in his really kind of creepy mask that
Sweet
looks
contoured
three-dimensional.
mask.
Yeah.
Very
And I will
polygonal.
say, I will say, I did get a Darth Vader vibe from him.
Well, what I got from it was when he opens his mouth and he said, I want the map to Skywalker. Because he sounds like fucking Kylo Ren from all
He's
that
got
first
a little
movie.
bit that. And again, if you're asking for maps, you're sounding like Satoris
It's a loaded
from the Final
trope.
Sacrifice. Yeah.
Where's
so
Map Troy?
it is
I
really
want it.
dangerous. Also, as far as frontmen go, how do you think he compares to Steven Tyler?
Not as flashy,
Okay.
but certainly good at his job.
What about like a
Reno
Robert
Raines.
Plant type?
I've never been a big Robert Plant fan.
I
A
mean,
little weird.
Yeah. Okay, just had to ask.
Sure.
That's good. Sometimes those things need to come up. Questions need to be answered. The big part of the episode is now coming up here, and it just happens. There's really kind of no transition. They're doing all this, they're signing up, and then it's time for the first game to begin. And they're all ushered out into an outdoor area, although it's like enclosed. It's hard to
I
explain.
think it's like a simulated outdoor
Yeah.
area, probably.
They've got like a roof over them, and they're in some sort of...
Well, the roof was open at the first point, I believe.
Yeah, so it's kind of like
It's
a
like a
dome
stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, there's walls, and like, yeah, it
And
does...
at some point here, is this when Gi-hun runs into Sang-woo?
Yeah, because he saw
when
him
they-
on the screen.
when they first,
What are
he-
you doing here? You went to SNU.
Of course.
SNU, the Bunko Squad.
Now, in this situation, Song-woo is like, let's talk about this later. I'm not really in the mood. But Gi-hun is completely clueless about it. He's like, you're not. No, there's no way you're really in debt. They're wrong about that. Like, he doesn't seem to believe it. But he does briefly catch up with them. We were talking about the setting. It's open. It's a large kind of field sort of space. And there's a giant doll standing at the other side of the arena. And we're not exactly sure what that means yet. But the players are instructed that they have to cross the finish line within 5 minutes, and they can't move. It's red light, green light. They can't move during red light, of course, as all kids know. When it's red light, you have to sit still. When it's green light, you can advance.
Kind of like a Boo in the Mario games kind of thing.
Except if Boo were Big Boy from that.
A lot of big
thing.
boy going
Yeah.
on here. What that doll?
I was
creepy.
just going to say, do you guys have thoughts on the doll?
Not something I'd want to be looking at,
Mm-mm.
and in
It's
the
giant.
close proximity too.
Not something
Another
I want
thing-
looking at me.
No.
Ever.
Especially if it's going to, shoot you in the head when you move. Another thing that the dubbed version got down pretty well is the red light, green light voice is really creepy. I don't know.
Little girl voice.
Yeah, it's you
Red
can't
light.
you can't tell as much in the Korean. It's just kind of harder to pick up the tone, but it's very creepy the way she reads the lines in that. Initially, everyone's still kind of excited. They don't understand what's about to happen. Player 324 is the first to go, and his mistake here, he's running out in front and being careless, is this is how everyone learns what exactly eliminated means. When they say the player gets eliminated when they don't follow the rules, that's when total chaos happens, because they've realized that this guy has been shot and is actually dead. It's not some kind of game anymore.
Holy shit, that is heavy.
Oh, this time it was.
That was really heavy. Well, let's make it not as heavy with another clip from America's preeminent comedy series, according to Jim.
Who's taking you to your first Bears-Packer Monday Night Football game?
The greatest daddy in the world.
Right. And what is this more important than?
My wedding day.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
this is because it's a football man.
It's the difference between dads like football and mommies
Girls
like weddings.
Girls like getting married.
It's just like every family that has ever existed, right there. It's
You
so
almost
good.
said flannel, but that's right too.
Yeah,
because
maybe that's
I
why my
think he
brain
wears
did
the
that.
red flannel every time I've seen him.
On that show, there's a friend who is, none of us have seen this, right?
No.
Okay, well, I saw like 2 clips. The friend is this big marshmallow of a man who's like fair complected.
All marshmallows
I got
are.
angry.
Is it
looking at
Kevin
him.
James?
No, it's worse somehow. Looking, Kevin James, the whole package is worse. But looking at this
The
guy
whole
made me
package.
angry. I'll pull up a picture, but please
Okay.
continue.
Okay.
Well, you kind of know what happens here. The chaos ensues, and roughly half of the 456 players,
yeah.
almost half of those people run to, in fact, I think more than half do, as it turns out, run to the exit screaming. They're all gunned down mercilessly immediately.
This is pretty brutal because I wasn't really expecting it.
Okay. I can see-
Van is showing us a picture of this according to
I
Jim
don't like it.
Actor.
No, I don't
I'm
like it
not
at
a
all.
big fan either. He is sweating in the photo. I do.
No eyebrows.
I
Yeah.
have to ask, do you think, and I know this is impossible to put yourself in this position because it's just too fucked up. Do you think you'd be one of the people who tried to run away?
No.
I
No.
don't think I would.
No,
My
I
instinct
just
is to
think my
freeze.
instinct would not be that. Yeah,
Mm.
but it is a situation where after the first person is shot, there's a bit of mob panic. So
Of course, yeah.
everyone runs into one another too. So some of the people who wouldn't have moved are being bowled over and then
Gi-hun
shot
got
for
knocked
moving.
over, in fact, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like a dead guy on him for the
And
next...
it has like a terrifying school shooting feel of like, oh, there's just, you hear a lot of bullets and people screaming, but for a brief second, you're not quite sure exactly who's where and what's going on.
Another question I have for you guys is, did you have any inkling of that? Did you think that's the direction it was going to go?
I mean, I kind of assumed people died.
I did, and which disappoints me because I really think
Yeah.
I would love to have come into this blind.
Me too.
And not known any of it. So I'm a little disappointed. I knew something was going down violent, and so it didn't shock me when it happened. Which
Though
is, again,
one of the
disappointing.
things I guess I would say is it's almost ruined by coming out in 2021.
Sure.
Because I think the idea that a game would be so severe that there's actual death is less novel of a concept.
It's been done.
Yeah,
for
what
sure.
works better here, I think, for Squid Game is the allegorical content, but also the fact that the games and the strategy within and all of that gets pretty fun to watch in a way.
yeah.
Intense.
Yeah, in fact, we will only get to talk about this game because the second episode doesn't cover any games, but the game they play second with the shapes having to cut out is one of the more interesting
Nerve-wracking
ones too. Yeah.
Every single one is nerve-wracking. Let's say this too. So our plan for our 2 episodes here is we're covering episode 1, and then next week we're covering episode 2. We're going to release a Patreon-only episode where we cover the rest of the series.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk how we felt about it and all that stuff.
So if you want
more
all
in-depth.
our thoughts,
And we won't
on
be
the
going
show,
as in-depth like on each episode by any
No.
means as like this,
but
but
we'll
we're going
talk
to
about
talk
the show as a whole. So
Yeah.
if you want our thoughts on that and you're not already subscribed to our Patreon, it's
Patreon.com/Bootu Inc.
It's going to be
B-O-O-T-U.
raw and uncut. We'll talk about anything we want.
Snake
Anything that
tattoos.
happens on this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, that's an exciting little bonus thing there that we're going to be doing, and we're gonna really get into it there. We'll just be covering these first 2 here and kind of limiting ourselves for the most part away from spoilers and things like that. So with that out of the way, the first 200 and something or 200 people mowed down. Now the game can continue with everyone knowing what's actually at stake here. The terrified remaining players have no choice but to advance during the green lights, with many more falling in the process. All the while, by the way, they do show the front man watching, drinking his fancy liquor. He's watching from a nice office room with on TV, and the music's playing, and he's
He
just
sets
kind of
off his jazz diorama or whatever he's got in his
with
office.
"Fly Me to the Moon" or
Love
whatever.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Love that little toy. It was neat with little drummers
Yeah.
and jazz people.
So you actually get "Fly Me to the Moon" playing as all these people are in slow motion getting shot to death, trying to advance to the finish line. Is the vibe that the episode ends on here. But there is some drama along the way that I'm going to talk about specifically. It sets up some of the moments later in the show. We start with, as I mentioned, Gi-hun gets knocked over in the pandemonium, and he actually doesn't get up right away when everyone else has started moving forward again. We were talking about this earlier. It is the old man who actually moves first after everyone's too afraid to move after everyone
Very
dies.
confident.
He's fucking loving it too.
His eyes are lit up. He's like,
Mhm.
when it gets green light, he darts ahead, and everyone's like, okay, I guess.
It's like, I don't know what you dead morons are waiting on. I'm going.
I guess we'll all follow this guy, and we got to play the game. A few other things besides, and Song-woo does help out when Gi-hun is down on the ground. He tells him, you got to get up, you got to move, stay behind someone. It seems like it can't see you as well if you've got someone in front of you, a meat shield, so to speak. And then there's a dying player who briefly latches on to Gi-hun from behind his ankle, which is, that's just very difficult to watch. And then here's where we actually get to meet Ali, player 199. Gi-hun actually trips and falls toward the very end. He's almost there, but then he's gonna die. But Ali is behind him and just grabs him,
Strong Ali.
and kind of choking him in the process because he's got him by the back of his jumpsuit, so he's pulling it up against his neck. But it saved his life. And neither of them can move while red light is happening, and they're just in this position. It's actually quite tense.
It is. The show does a good job of even early on when you think you might have a better idea of the results with the characters at least, it creates little moments of tension in the games.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I think they handled that very well. So the time does expire. Gi-hun is one of the very last to cross. He gets over there with 1 second left.
He actually does that Legends of the Hidden
He
Temple
did the-
dive across the line.
This whole thing seemed like a really fucked up Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Actually, Olmec could. I feel like if he
could have been
is
the
ever
doll.
done in the temple and he wants a new job, he could work here.
He could be the
For the squid.
swiveling thing that says the green light, red light.
For sure. He'd be great.
That
no
would be
Kirk Fogg here, though.
terrifying. Yeah, even more so, I think. So
And great job to our team here, Gi-hun. You have won the Squid Game.
Anyway, we gotta
parents
hurry
have
up.
been murdered.
We
Let's
gotta
see what
hurry
your
up and
prize
get
is.
some more kids in here. We're killing 28 kids today.
The players who do not, of course, reach the finish line, it's not just moving on red light. If you don't get to the finish line at the end of the minute, dead. So they're mowed down as well. And we find out in the next episode that I think it was like 255 of them or something that died in this thing. So as I said, over half.
Big culling.
Yes, immediately. And with the players across the finish line, terrified, out of breath, and just not sure what to even do, which you would be in complete shock at this point, the episode ends at that moment. So it gives you just enough of an idea of what these games are going to be like, and then leaves it right there for episode 1. And that's the entire summary of the episode. So I'm going to ask you guys, if you had been in my position and you had watched this episode on your own, would you have been compelled to move forward from this point necessarily?
I definitely would have.
You would have.
I think so. It's tough to say because I knew I was for the sake of this podcast.
So you felt like they introduced it in a compelling fashion then?
I think part of what drew me to it was how well it visually looked.
Yeah.
And typically I'm not the guy who sits down and goes, the special effects in the newest Marvel movie was so good. I don't care about special effects. Everything looks the same now. The best special effects are the same as the worst.
This doesn't.
But that's true. It doesn't. It's the angularity of the scenes, the design, the colors.
It's really well shot all the way around.
And making it children's games, and that kind of pulls you in, and just the brutality of it, but the slight bit of character development we got, all of it, I was just fascinated. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I think for me, one of the big draws with this early is kind of what I was saying about like there being actual tension you could feel. And like Van said, the visual appeal and the style of it. But another big thing to me is like, I never got a sense. A lot of times when I watch like the pilot of a show I'm not sure about, it feels a lot more like it's trying to do a lot of whiz bang to beat me over the head in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really feel that here. I feel like it left so much mystery on the table.
There's a lot to be still discovered about what this place is and what they're actually doing and what's going to happen to the players who stay or what their reaction is going to be to this, because none of them at this point, they're poor and they were willing to go to some kind of extreme. Like they went into an unknown situation for money, but there is absolutely no way any of them, and they're all blameless in this sense, they could never have dreamed it was going to be anything like this.
No.
So the response to this is a key pivotal point in the series for every character. And we get into that in the next episode, which I'm looking forward to. And then, of course, as we mentioned, we'll be doing the bonus one where we discuss the entire show. If you guys don't have any more thoughts, I think we could leave it there for this time and we'll pick right back up.
The one last thing I want to say is that this show, even with knowing what I knew going in, the mystique was good. We don't know what this shadowy collective of people putting this on. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their goal, their narrative is going to be. And I think some of the best shows that have captivated me over the years that are a little more mainstream like this, like Lost, did that. Like, who is the Dharma Initiative? I have to find out. And I think this show did a good job of making me go, who is this polygon face?
Who's this front
Kylo
man?
Ren guy? Yeah, exactly.
I agree. It was intriguing. I didn't think it was bad by any means, but I wasn't so sucked in when I watched it on my own that I had to immediately do the rest of it. It's a perfectly solid first episode, though. I'll put it that way. It's really solid all the way around. It is intriguing. It makes you wonder what's going on. Before we go, let's all go around the room and tell a secret to the listeners. And by that, I just mean give your social media contact information.
Oh, I was really trying to think of a secret.
If you want to tell a secret, you can. It shouldn't be a secret that your Twitter handle is Manly Vanly, though. Hopefully, everyone knows that by now.
I don't even need to say anything now. You covered it. I'm good.
And you can find Brian at Loud Guitar Brian.
Yeah, that's public information.
Do you have a secret?
My toes are really long.
Okay, how about your second toe is larger than your big toe, right?
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
what about your toes? Which one's
No,
bigger?
they descend.
See, mine do the same
They
thing.
do like the...
We're normal.
I actually think it's pretty common, though, to have what
It is.
Brian does
It
with
is,
his
yeah.
feet.
Yeah,
I
it's
looked
kind
it
of
up
stupid
once.
too, but that's fine. Idiot. Grow your toes like that.
It's called a reverse pyramid, but whatever.
Extra content
Pyramids
like
have
this,
three
by the way.
sides. That doesn't even work.
We talk about
I'm
things...
not the one who named it.
We...
I totally am, just now.
I'm trying to segue us out of this. You guys are not letting me.
We're
We
talking about
talk
toes
about
some more.
stuff like this all the time. If you wanna pay for extra content, patreon.com/Bootu Inc. We have so much material on there. You wouldn't even believe it if you haven't already subscribed. So please do.
Blow your
Also-
stupid listener minds.
Also visit us on boobtubeboys.com and Instagram and any other social media platform. We either are on it, own it, or will be on it
Own
at
it.
some point. So keep all that in mind.
And I tell you what, if you find it in your heart, you don't need a little business card under your door to head on to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate us the highest rating possible and leave a review.
That's very true. There will be no massacres or shootings or anything. We just talk and we enjoy talking.
There'll be huggings. Mass
You guys
huggings.
speak for yourselves. I'm going to kill any fan that comes near me
Yeah. that's-
without prejudice.
Can we edit
We
that
are
part
all-
out?
I'm the editor.
Oh, shit.
Are we whispering again? Well, thank you for listening to this first introductory episode of Squid Game. We'll be back next week with more.